Welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. Tonight, we are doing episode 196, Slaying the Dragon, where we're going to be talking about the opening matchup ×4 against Edmonton and the Los Angeles Kings. So get in the chat, like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. Whoa. I don't know what happened there, but we got it.
We are here.
I don't know what happened here.
This is a great start to the show.
Why is everybody not on here? All right, there we go.
Oh, there we are.
All right, we got it. Jesus Christ.
That's awesome.
Hopefully the Kings don't stumble like we just did out of the gate tomorrow night. But Hockey Royalty's back. We're here to talk about the opening matchup on the quest for Stanley Cup #3 with your Los Angeles Kings against the Edmonton Oilers. Joe, Russell, how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a weekend full of playoff hockey. It's been fun to watch. It's always fun to watch when it's not your team. Don't really have that sense of crippling anxiety setting in yet. So I'm sure tomorrow morning I'll definitely start feeling it. But how you doing, Joe?
Good. Good day today. Happy Easter to everybody that
Yes.
celebrates, participates, ate a hell of a lot of food. So I'm ready to rock. Carb loaded. Brandon, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, girl and I just went out to a little brunch today. Had a nice little brunch. I think it was like a short rib hash is what I had. So just quality meal. We walked around. It's been a nice day. Walked around outside and then just kind of been in and relaxed, man. Just been pulling 10, 12-hour days at work. So it was just nice to have a day to myself with Last of Us tonight and the heavy sports week ahead with the Kings, the NFL draft and everything like that. So it's going to be a lot of stuff going on and just had a nice day to do nothing.
Nice. Who are the Giants going to take?
Oh, yeah.
They should take either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter is who they should take.
Okay.
That or trade back if they're not taking a quarterback.
They're 2 or 3?
3
or 4? 3? Okay.
I mean, if they're not taking a quarterback and then another team wants to take a quarterback like the Saints and move up.
Yeah.
I mean, why not get more picks and then just get another
Agreed.
player? Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with Brandon there.
I like it.
If Hunter's there, I'd take him just because I feel like he could be a good number 2 to Malik Neighbors, and you're also having him play corner. So I feel like that would be a no-brainer pick if he slips past Cleveland. But
I like it.
We'll talk about that next week after the draft gets going on. Time to get into it with the Kings. I think it's an interesting one because last year and previous years, kind of like the feeling of dread of facing Edmonton again. I think the waters in Twitterverse are a little bit more calm. I feel a little bit more calm about it. I don't know if it's just a nonchalance or if I feel better about this team. But I don't have the crippling anxiety about watching this team play. How are you guys feeling going into this dance here with Edmonton for the 4th time?
Yeah, definitely feeling more confident than I guess maybe at least last year. I think the first time that the Kings and Oilers played each other, it was more or less just kind of happy to be here feeling. No doubty. Just kind of like, okay, well, playing with house money, let's just see what happens. The second year, it was like, okay, well, now we have this like revenge setting in, and it was like, okay, like we got to get our get back. And I thought the Kings performed well. I think it was a closer series than maybe just going to Game 6 as opposed to Game 7 the year before that. And then the next year, the last year with losing in 5 games. I mean, I think a lot of Kings fans maybe didn't have as much confidence, really any confidence going into that one. And to see them bow out in 5 wasn't really a surprise. But, I mean, this year, this is easily the most confident I've felt in the Kings going into a playoff series against Edmonton. Edmonton is definitely banged up. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. I don't really take a lot of what Connor McDavid said as far as him saying that they're not the walking wounded that everyone's making them out to be. But when you lose a player like Matthias Ekholm, who I think is like the third most important player on their team behind McDavid and Draisaitl, in my opinion, that's a huge loss for them. So you're asking for a lot of other players to step up for them. And of course, they're missing Evander Kane, Trent Frederick, and we'll see. We don't really know the type of impact those players will have. We haven't even seen Kane really play this year. We've seen Frederick play just a couple minutes for the Oilers against the Kings in LA. So yeah, I mean, you couple all that with how the Kings are looking and how they've been playing lately. I mean, ever since Kuzmenko's been brought in, this is easily the deepest team. I think we could I think we've said it and probably tried to hint at it a little bit toward the depth of the Kings being a little bit better than the Oilers, but I think it was more or less just us being maybe more optimistic than we were thinking factually it was. Especially when you consider players like Clint Kotzen that beat the Kings, Kyler Yamamoto, and Nick Bukestad in the past that just seemed to really tear the Kings apart, at least to bottom six. But now you look at the Kings lineup this year, at least compared to last year's lineup. I mean, the third line last year was Kevin Fiala, Blake Lizotte, and Trevor Lewis. And now this year you have Kevin Fiala, Quentin Byfield, and Alex Laferriere. So I think that just goes to show you right there that this Kings team is a lot more deeper than at least last year. And I think that gives me a lot of confidence. And I think the Kings will have a lot better shot at finally taking down the giant that is the Edmonton Oilers this time around.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know what to feel. I mean, I agree that I don't feel like the same, like, well, we got no shot here. Like last year I picked the Oilers in 5 because it was a mismatch. I certainly don't feel like that. I don't think I'm nearly as optimistic as Kings Twitter. I'll say that. I think this is going to be a drag out fight. I think it's going to be a long series. I don't know how to feel. I honestly just don't know how to feel. Like this, I would agree that this is the best opportunity for the Kings to win and beat the Edmonton finally, right? For a combination of things. The Kuzmenko addition, the way Byfield has been playing the second half of the season, him and Fiala, that line, the depth. I'm just not. I'm not as like leaning so heavily on the depth as everybody else is. I agree that the Kings' depth is probably better, but you're still looking at an Oilers third line that's centered by Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's a pretty good third line center, if you ask me. And Henrique, I think, is perfectly reasonable as 4C. Like, again, I don't think that means it's better than the Kings, but let's remember it hasn't needed to be necessarily because don't forget the top of the roster has McDavid and Draisaitl. So, I will agree that the Kings' depth is better, but I think what often gets left out in that conversation is, yeah, well, the top of the Oilers forward group is better too. So, I think if we're being honest about it, we got to factor that in. I don't know. I've gone back and forth on this series. Like, I was very curious to see after the Ekholm injury, that coupled with the home ice, where the Kings are guaranteed to win this series because they have home ice, how the betting market would shake this out. And for the most part, the Kings are. It depends where you look. I mean, DraftKings had LA at plus 115 underdogs, which I think they should be a little closer to even than that. I mean, it's basically a coin flip across the markets, which I think is fair. Like, I think that speaks to, the impact of the Ekholm injury. Because I think if Ekholm's healthy, and maybe the Oilers in general are healthy, they're favored a bit more comfortably. But it's pretty close to a coin flip, and I kind of agree. I see this as a long series. I don't have a good feeling. I don't have a feeling of dread. I'm just genuinely interested to see, particularly in game 1 here, because we talked about toward the end of the season, like, will we see the Kings kind of tip their hand, or either team tip their hand in these last 2 games of the season, matchup wise? We didn't get a chance to see it, right? Guys were out of the lineup for Edmonton. We just didn't get a chance to see it. So, we really don't know. you look at the ice time that Kopitar's played this year. The most ice time he's played against an Oilers forward is against Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, right? And that's probably not going to happen in this series. So there's a lot that I just don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know. Obviously, the Ekholm injury is a big injury for Edmonton. I don't know how big of a factor it's going to play in this particular series. We got to see how this plays out. But this is LA. If they're ever going to do it, this is the year.
It's just so interesting, like you said. Like you have pundits picking the Kings to win. You have Vegas has the odds in Edmonton's favor. I saw a bracket that did who wins by who won the season series. And then in that bracket, the Kings were your Stanley Cup champion. So like their route, they won the regular season series between everybody that they played. So it was just really weird how a lot of people are looking at this. You look at some of the major podcasts that are out there, like Spitting Chicklets. You had Biz picking the Kings. You had other major people that have huge podcasts picking the Kings over the Oilers. Even though we didn't really get that love all year long, now all of a sudden it's coming out of the woodwork for us to beat Edmonton. Do you guys feel like it's because of the injury that we're getting picked so much, or are people finally catching on to the LA Kings?
I think a lot of it has to do with home ice advantage playing a factor. I mean, every podcast and every pundit I've heard from has mentioned or even pulled up that the Kings have the best home record in the NHL. I mean, but yeah, home record. We asked Jim Hiller, someone asked Jim Hiller about it the other day, and he didn't really make too much of it. He did point out, like, percentage-wise, you do have a better chance of winning at home. So he just referenced statistically, which, yeah, like that's how it should be referenced. It's not, I mean, you look in the past, the Oilers have beat the Kings. It's like 6-2 in LA, the record is. And obviously that, I don't think each season should be compared, or this season at least should be compared to past seasons. So kind of throw it out the window a little bit. So it's hard to really see where because I remember just a couple of days ago, Joe and I we were talking. I remember, Joe, about the betting markets, and I'm with you. I thought maybe like a -110 on both sides would be like more fair. I think Vegas probably just kind of sees like, hey, when you have McDavid and Draisaitl and the history between these two teams, Edmonton should be the favorite, just in that small factor. And like, just to have that underdog where it's +110 or whatever it is, +105, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it is more or less like a coin flip. So I think a lot of the analysts and the commentators or whatever are more or less picking the Kings because of that home record and the depth that we kind of talked about, and the Oilers injuries. There's a lot of unknown, I feel like, in this series, even though there is a lot of familiarity between these two teams, which is so funny because it's like, okay, Darcy Kemper's been real good all year. How is he going to perform in the playoffs? I mean, Stuart Skinner's kind of had a struggling year. He's performed well in the playoffs at times. So it's like, what's really going to go on? And how is like some of the, because you're looking at a Kings team that has 8 different players in the lineup compared to last year. And there's a lot of young players in this lineup too. I mean, you're looking at a fourth line that could all be playing their first playoff game in Alex Turcotte, Samuel Anius, and Jeff Malott. And you have Brant Clark, who's probably going to be playing important minutes with Joel Edmondson, that he's getting his first taste of playoff action. So, I mean, yeah, it's and then you have Quentin Byfield's playing down the middle. He hasn't really played as a center iceman in the playoffs. So be curious to see where those matchups come into play. So yeah, I think it's just, there's a lot of question marks that make this more or less a coin flip series, and I think a lot of people make it out to be.
So what's not a question mark is LA Kings Nick coming in here with a $13.99. Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for being a listener and donating to our alcohol fund in case the series gets out of hand. So speaking of alcohol, Joe, I lost a bet fair and square.
That's right.
So I will be sending you a bottle of whatever you are asking for. You a bourbon guy, a Scotch guy?
A bourbon all day. Yeah.
Okay. I have a custom like local shop down here that does a lot of Texas stuff.
Ooh,
so I'll get you something small batch to pay my debts, my man.
What was the bet? What was the bet again? I forget.
It was either Turcotte or Akil Thomas to get, was it 30 points, Brandon?
Yeah, 30.
And I'm happy I win a bet because I just like winning bets. But, Turcotte looked like he was cruising for a while, and then he got hurt. And that was a pretty big reason why I made the bet. Was I don't know that either of these guys are going to play nearly enough games to get 30 points.
Missed it by 5.
Yeah, he was.
Oh.
And then, well, the
Yeah.
Kuzmenko trade didn't help either, right? Because that
Yeah.
bumped him down to line 4. And speaking of line 4, I want to ask you, you pointed something out, Russ, about Turcotte, Malott. Malott just got in the lineup like a couple weeks ago, right? And everybody's talking about how the King and Hellenius, I'm sorry, and Hellenius too, about how the Kings have this, the depth. Is that fourth line littered with guys that have never played before? Is that really a better fourth line than a fourth line that has Corey Perry, Janmark, maybe Henrique? Like, are we that confident that Hellenius, Malott, and Turcotte is going to be that much better than that fourth line? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I think the depth is getting a little over talked about because I think it's leaned heavily into that Byfield line, right? Which is fair. Like, that line should eat against, if the third line centered, if it's Nugent, Hopkins, Skinner, and we'll see what the lines ends up checking out to be. I know they got a lot of injury stuff, but like that is the line that should eat. But like,
I think the identity of the fourth line is something different than we haven't had. Like, right. So Hellenius said he's built for playoff hockey.
Sure.
Malott's not afraid to throw the body around.
Yep.
And as much as we don't want to sacrifice hitting and brutality for being able to play actual hockey, all these guys can still play actual hockey. So I think the fact that you're going to have a puck hound like Alex Turcotte, you're going to have a big center that can lay the wood in Hellenius, and Malott's not shy about throwing some people on the boards either. We've always been out-muscled, out-pushed with some of the rat style play from the Edmonton Oilers, where I think this year that fourth line it's not going to lose momentum if we have momentum. And I think that they're going to be able to maybe lay some punishment going forward. I think the identity of the fourth line, not necessarily the talent level in comparison to Edmonton, but the style of play is going to be a huge factor in this series.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it won't be better. It's just I think that it's being talked about as if it's a given. And I don't know. I don't know that it's a given. I think it's capable. But to Russ's point a second ago, there's a lot of questions, and we don't really know. So I just I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that we can get into from like matchup standpoint and who's going to play against who and all this stuff. But
you brought the fourth line, so stylistically, that fourth line maybe gets Tanner Jeannot back later on, which he's kind of a 1-for-1 with Malott. They have a similar skill set.
Sure.
So is that physicality of the fourth line? I mean, obviously they're only playing 12-ish minutes a night. Is that physicality going to bring something different that might help us with Edmonton? Do you like the style of play comparison to previous fourth lines? Like, how do you guys feel about it?
Well, I mean, if you look at just comparing the previous fourth line, I guess in terms of last year to this year, I mean, I mentioned the third line being Fiala, Lizotte, and Lewis last year. That's kind of, I believe that's kind of how they started. I think eventually it got to Fiala, Dubois, and Byfield together, like after the first couple of shifts. And then the fourth line ended up being Lizotte, Grundstrom, and Lewis. So I've been pretty impressed with Jeff Malott in his short stint. I mean, it's kind of hard to analyze a lot of what I guess the team has been doing of late because there's a lot of weird factors. I mean, there's been some competitive games, but they haven't all been competitive. Yeah. But Jeff Malott's been playing pretty good. He's got really good numbers statistically in terms of the advanced metrics. The expected goal shares looks good for him. I think he skates really well. Sammy Hellenius, I had a little side conversation with Sammy Hellenius just to kind of get a vibe of where he was at, because just a few days before that, I talked with Alex Ferrier about going into his second playoff series or experience, and he had brought up like last year how it was almost like a blur. He didn't really have time to think, and he thought that it was really he did kind of feel like the moment maybe got too big for him at times, but he still ended up playing well. So I wanted to get the sense from Samuel Hellenius to see how he was feeling. I didn't really get that at all. I just kind of wanted to see where his confidence was at, and he was like, "Hey, we have a message from the coaching staff just to kind of go out there, play our game, play this north-south style game. He's gonna go out there," and he told me he's gonna go out there and bang bodies around. So he's looking forward to the increased physicality. He almost had this smile on his face, looking forward to playoff type hockey. So I'm happy to see where Hellenius goes. But like, yeah, Joe, like I totally agree where it's like there is that unknown as far as like how is that fourth line really going to match up with against the Edmonton fourth line, where it's like, yeah, when you have Adam Henrique compared against those three players, I mean, yeah, you would take an Adam Henrique player who's been to the Stanley Cup final, who's had all these years of experience under his belt compared to players now who are playing their first playoff series ever. So yeah, I get that. But I think a lot of the depth conversation that comes into play here is like you talked about that third line and how successful they've been. And I think there's good reason for that, because when you have a top two lines that you're really just looking to wash out the lines of McDavid and Draisaitl. That's all you're looking to do. If you get a wash from them at 5-on-5, that's great. That's where you need your third line to come in and take advantage of those minutes against Nugent Hopkins, even though, like, I understand, like, he's still a really solid player, first overall pick. He's got that pedigree too. But when you have that line of Fiala, Laferriere, and Byfield down the middle, that's really almost been carrying the Kings at times throughout the season, or at least at certain times before Kuzmenko came in. They're going to be a huge reason for, or a huge factor in terms of this series success for LA. So, I mean, we're maybe getting too far ahead of myself as far as X factor, but yeah, that third line is going to be a huge part as far as where this team goes in the series.
Yes. Yeah, listen, I fully expect, like, if that line doesn't have a big series, Edmonton's going to cruise. Let's be honest. Like, the Byfield line needs to, and I think they will. Like, I don't think the Nugent Hopkins line, as much as I think Nugent Hopkins is a very good third line center, I don't think that line is going to be able to hang with the Byfield Fiala line. I don't. I think that line has been so dynamic since being put together, those two, and Laferriere has been really good complement to them. So I totally agree with that. And again, I'm sure, and I saw somebody earlier in the chat, like, Joe's pouring cold water. Like, Joe's just trying to figure stuff out here, okay? So, because
Joe brings us down to earth sometimes, and we need it. We need.
Well, let me say this, because I agree that the Byfield line, I think, can, and I think should, and I think will control their shifts. But we, like you had just said, Russ, like, all that we need the top two lines to do is if they can come out a wash, then we're fine. Why do we think it's going to be a wash? Like, if you look Kopitar against Kopitar against Draisaitl in the 3 previous series has been outscored 14-6. Deneau was outscored 4-1 last year against McDavid. Why do we think that this is just going to be a wash? Like, I think we're so quick to talk about the depth, and we're too dismissive of how good McDavid and Draisaitl are, is where I'm at, where it's like, as much as I'm like, yeah, that Byfield line is going to kill. Okay, but what about the top two lines? Can they do better than just, like I said, Kopitar 14-6, he's been outscored in his last 3 series against that's just against Draisaitl. So I think, again, I'm not saying it can't, I'm not saying it won't happen, but this idea that all we need is QB to go off because the top two lines can hold their own. No, I don't. I push back on that, because the top two lines have not held their own in the last 2 years. Kopitar to 43% expected goal share in the last 3 series against Draisaitl. Deneau has a 37% expected goal share against McDavid the last 3 years. Why is this all of a sudden going to turn around? So that's where my struggle is. Like, yes, I agree that this is the best Kings iteration, but they still got McDavid and Draisaitl. It's like, son of a bitch. You know,
yeah, when I was going to say that goes kind of to show, or that's why it's like, I was really looking forward to, or I was hoping to see McDavid and Draisaitl in the last 2 games that they played, because I was really curious to see how Hiller would handle those matchups. Because, like, I agree with you, Joe. Yeah, like, I watched Kopitar get dusted by Draisaitl in the corner at least 4 or 5 times last year. Like, it happened multiple occasions throughout that entire series. So now, I'm sure Hiller's obviously was the coach last year, so he noticed it too. So I'm wondering, like, with all this talk about the Byfield line and how well they've been playing, like, is there a possibility we see them go up against a matchup?
Maybe.
Yeah,
that's right, because that's what we like. Is it because they seem to prefer? Now, again, it was McClellan for a while, but it seems that they preferred Kopitar against Draisaitl, Deneau against McDavid.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked. So is Hiller, to your point, going to say, you know what, we're switching it up this year? Will they switch just those two? Because I think I kind of think you need to have Deneau, I guess, against one of those. Like, he is, the reason he's here is how good he is as a two-way play driving, especially defensive center, face-offs, go down the line. So I figure he's going to get one of the shutdown matchups. Is he going to get Draisaitl maybe this year instead? that's where I'm not really sure where that's going to go. And I didn't look at what Danault did against, I can do that just out of curiosity, what Danault did against Draisaitl, because I just looked at McDavid. But like all this to say, I just wanted to point out to all the Kings people, which are rightfully so excited about the upcoming series. But like, I think we're too dismissive of how good McDavid and Draisaitl have been, and we're just so quick to say Kings depth, Kings D, Kings goaltending, Byfield, and we just are brushing aside McDavid and Draisaitl too quickly.
I don't know if anybody's brushing them aside. I just think that people are confident in this team more than anything else. And I mean, they shouldn't be brushing them aside. I don't think they are, because they've been waxed the last 3 years by those two guys. And Leon hasn't slowed down. He had 60-something goals this year. So it's not like their team is playing any worse. It's just like you don't have Kane, you don't have Ekholm, you have a lot of these things. We're the best team we've ever played against them. So I think a lot of people are just excited for that. I don't know if it's necessarily thinking that McDavid and Leon don't have it anymore.
Yeah. Well, how about this? I just took a peek at the last 3 years, Danault versus Draisaitl. So he's played 125 minutes against McDavid, 102 minutes against Draisaitl, and it's been very good for Danault. Outscored Draisaitl 7-3, 52% shot share, shot attempt share, 57% expected goal share. So maybe we do see Danault against Draisaitl again.
Byfield versus McDavid, and then
either Kopitar. I still listen. Kopitar is going to. I'd be just shocked, I guess, if Byfield plays against one of those two lines. We've seen Hiller's going to lean on, I think, Kopitar and Danault, and I don't even totally disagree with that. I guess against those top two guys, I'd be shocked if we see Kopitar not against one of those two, and same thing for Danault.
I would think that the Byfield line would work better against McDavid on the fly, and then you need Kopitar to win those key faceoffs. Okay. And you kind of jungle it up like that.
So that'll be the other part, is when this series switches to Edmonton, what does Edmonton prefer?
Yeah. I'm just curious because, I think in years past, we haven't really, obviously they've more or less been the top line. But maybe we probably didn't think of Kopitar and Kempe as maybe as big as, at least that line, as big as a scoring threat as maybe they have, at least compared to this year. Because now, since they've added Kuzmenko, that's just been a totally different element that line hasn't had before. I know they had Byfield for at times, but now that you have Byfield down the middle on his own line, I feel like Kuzmenko has been this offensive threat that the Kings haven't, this other player that they really haven't had besides Fiala, in my opinion. So it's like, now that you have that, especially that right shot option too, who has really been really good on the rush too, to really amplify Kopitar and Kempe on the rush. Maybe we see them isolate, or at least Hiller isolate that line as far as giving them the favorable matchups and say, hey, we see you have been scoring well. Kuzmenko's been going crazy as far as point production. So let's give you the lesser, quote unquote, lesser matchups and give Byfield to know those harder minutes against the top two guys for Edmonton. So yeah, that's why it's I was so upset. We didn't get to actually see what would happen.
I know.
And maybe that was also Knobloch kind of playing gamesmanship too in the last game against Edmonton, where it's okay, we have you guys coming in, we'll concede home ice, because home ice never really seemed to matter for them, and I'm sure they're pointing back. I hear all their pundits or whatever talk about how the record in the past has been fine for Edmonton, and they've been winning all these games in LA in the postseason. So I'm sure Knobloch was okay, we'll sit our guys and we'll hide the matchups that we want to see in the playoffs until the playoffs come around. So yeah, it's going to be, I think, that first puck drop, that starting lineup, whoever's something to watch for as far as who players are on the ice for both teams. So
this situation kind of reminds me a little bit of D3 Mighty Ducks, where they go play the varsity team in the morning skate and they just get waxed, and that's the Kings getting waxed. But then when the game time that it matters, the only time it matters, they show up and they're a different team. The Kings just need to show up and be a different team, be a team that the Edmonton hasn't played. And Edmonton's going to have a completely different lineup, right? We have Warren, and they don't have Kane. They don't have a lot of the guys McLeod that killed us in the past. Don't have their best. They don't have their best defenseman, in my opinion, in Ekholm. And their goaltending last year was shaky, but Skinner kind of hardened up towards the end of the season and going into the playoffs. it's shakier this year. Who knows if he can get that back on track? And we have a Vezina candidate in our end. So there's a lot of stuff that I think both teams don't know about, and it's going to shake up. And I don't think you're going to figure this all out game one anyways. I mean, Kings have won game one every single season, and the series had its own ebbs and flows. And I think that's going to be consistent this year. I know a lot of people are trying to pick the Kings in 5 and all that. And we'll get to our predictions later on. But I think it's going to be a true gamesmanship, a true boxing match between both teams. And I think it could avalanche in favor of the Kings if we see the type of Kings that we've been playing. But, I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl could also go off in their own way. So I think it's going to be a nice little series, and I'm excited to get started with game one.
Whoever scores first in each game is going to be absolutely huge, because we've seen this Kings team, when they get in a deficit, they have a hard time overcoming it. At times, I feel like they're really strong, obviously, with the lead. I mean, Hiller's pointed out that they're fine with scoring 2 goals and just kind of shutting things down at times. And and obviously we saw that at times with last year. And they don't have Ekholm, which like I said, I think he's one of the more important players on the team. So I'd be curious how Knobloch really wants to shut things down in that aspect. But I feel like whoever scores the first goal in all of these games is it's probably going to have a better chance. I mean, obviously it's an obvious thing to say, but more or less going to have a better chance to win the game.
Yeah, I do think it means that much more to the Kings. They're a team that just doesn't score a lot. They don't create a lot of chances, so they're not a team that's built to chase a game, right? Edmonton, it's obviously they're going to want to score first because they want to make the Kings chase the game, but they're a little bit more capable to chase a game if they do get down a goal. And I've gone back and I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say I've gone back and forth on the Ekholm thing. It's a huge loss. It is. But I do wonder, like, does the loss of Ekholm, is it as impactful? Like, look at Heiskanen, and I understand Heiskanen's a better defenseman than Ekholm is, but like the loss of Heiskanen in Dallas is crushing against Colorado, because it's going to move guys up to play against McKinnon that maybe shouldn't be playing against McKinnon, type of thing, where, the Kings, again, they're not a team that is very, they just are not a strong offensive team in terms of creating chances. So if there's ever a team that maybe the loss of Ekholm, while still big, if there's a team that they can maybe, it's not going to show as much, I guess, as I'll say, is it's against a team that just doesn't create a ton of offense, right? If they were playing Vegas, or they were playing Edmonton or Colorado, and somebody else had to hop in and take on an Eichel matchup or a McKinnon matchup, that's game over. That's just not the scenario here in against Los Angeles. So I think that's interesting. I do wonder what they're going to do with the matchups. If they're going to put Wallman with Bouchard.
I mean, the Kings are in the top half in goals scored per game.
Yeah,
I mean, they're only a couple spots back of the Oilers. Yep. So
I think it's just more pointing to, like, if they're losing at a certain point.
Well, and just creating chances. Like, they haven't been a team that has been known. I know I referenced the Sport Logic that was talked about on the PDO cast a couple of weeks back, that they're like 30th in the league in slot shots. And Clearsight Analytics is a proprietary site. It's a private site, and they have like a teaser, if you will. And the Kings have been bottom 5 in chances created all season. Now they're not right now, but I suspect they're still bottom 10. So there just isn't a team that creates a lot of high danger scoring chances. So I don't know, like, and I don't mean to downplay the fact of Ekholm, because I do think he's a big loss, but and I saw a comment about because we may see
Wallman might be out the first few games as well, according to Nick.
I don't think so. I listened to Knobloch today. He said that everybody would be available. I feel like
the only one I think that is possibly out is Wallman might not. I think, is it Wallman or Kulak has got his wife is expecting. Stetcher's out for game 1.
Frederick's day-to-day.
There's comments about Darnell Nurse, and I just, I know everybody wants to crap on Darnell Nurse, but can we?
I'm here for it.
Well, and I get it. So Nurse's most common line mate this year was Stetcher, and they were fine. Not great, not bad, just fine. Nurse with Kulak, 395 minutes, 54% Corsi, 56% shots, 58% expected goal share. Pretty good. Nurse with Bouchard, 113 minutes, and this could be what we see. Which to me seems interesting. I'm not sure that I would do that, but again, this is not Nurse and Bouchard against McKinnon, right? It's not Nurse and Bouchard against Eichel, and Nurse and Bouchard, 113 minutes, 60% Corsi, 64% shot share, 63% expected goal share. In their 113 minutes, Nurse and Bouchard has been quite good. Nurse on the season, guys, third best Corsi share of his career, 52%. His best shot share, 53%. His career best, 54.6% share. I know it's trendy to hate Darnell Nurse. Guys, for being honest, he just hasn't been that bad this year. Now maybe he will be in this first round, but guess the best. It's not a coincidence, guys, that Darnell Nurse is having arguably his best career without Cody Ceci. Ceci's gone, and that has saved this Oilers blue line. While Ekholm is a big injury, like the Nurse Bouchard pairing has been great. The Nurse Kulak pairing has been very good. So, hey, you can hate Nurse all you want, but at least this year, he's fine.
Yeah.
Well, you might hate Nurse, but you're not going to hate our first sponsor here at THPN, which is going to be DraftKings. So DraftKings is going to be helping you out with all your playoff betting needs. And right now, the NBA 82 game grind is done, and the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make some playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing bets on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, more? It's all in your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. Let's go THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you just bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 888-778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 age eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Sorry, I want to go back to what Joe was talking about with the Nurse Bouchard pairing, because I'm not scared at all of Darnell Nurse, to be honest with you. No, and I get what you're saying, but it's I don't think it's. Because when you have McDavid and Draisaitl on the ice playing forward, they kind of help you out. Sure. It doesn't really matter who's playing defense at certain aspects. But, as far as the numbers, at least for this year, there's only been 4 games that they've played over 9 minutes together. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have kind of been spot minutes here and there. So it's kind of hard. And one of those games was the 5-0 game against the Kings. So it's I'm just pretty much throwing that game out the window. But yeah, if I look at Darnell Nurse's minutes last year in the playoffs, at least throughout the postseason for Edmonton, he had a 40% expected goal share, one of the worst on the team.
Who was he paired with?
Yeah, and I'm sure he was paired with your boy CC.
It was Cody CC.
So we'll see how it fares with the Bouchard. But Ekholm is just so much better than Nurse. I agree. I know you're not saying that they're similar players, but it's when you put Nurse up against those more important minutes, that's where I'm licking my lips if I'm the Kings. And as far as the suspension goes, because we haven't really touched on that. I was whatever. I would have been surprised if he got a game in the playoffs. I think Byfield maybe sold it a little bit more, and I'm sure the Kings were kind of playing gamesmanship as far as him being upper body injury and all that good stuff. But for me, I'm happy he's playing game 1 because I know as soon as he takes a big lick or takes any sort of hit, the crowd's going to go effing crazy. Like they're going to light up anytime Nurse takes a big hit. So I'm happy that it'll bring the energy to the crowd. And yeah, like it just like I said, like Darnell Nurse defensively, he's like, I've seen it in the past. I've seen it in important minutes, important moments. Like he just is not the great defender that the Oilers possibly need. Do they switch up and maybe go with Wallman at the top pair, which I think would probably be a better option, or even maybe Kulak, who I feel like is a better defender at times than Darnell Nurse. I feel like that would be or a better choice at least for Edmonton to go with that top pair, and maybe you send Nurse down at the second pair or even third pair. But yeah, like I just think the Ekholm loss is, I don't think anybody can make a big enough deal than it is for Edmonton. I feel like that's just a massive loss for them going into a playoff series.
I think it crushes their cup chances.
Okay.
I don't know if it crushes it. It certainly hurts their chances in round one against the Kings. I don't know if it like totally crushes it, just because again, Kings aren't a team that has shown the ability to create a lot of chances. So maybe it's not as big of a blow, but it is a blow, and no question.
Yeah.
And totally agree that
Dom's preview, whatever, I'm sure you're gonna bring it up. It was 60%, 40% with Ekholm, and now it's both sides for without Ekholm. So it's like that's
a big
massive loss. It's a big jump.
It is a big for sure.
And for a team that struggles to produce offense, I mean, we're like I said, top half in goal share. I think it's going to help. The Kings are buzzing right now offensively, I believe, and I think it's just going to help that go forward. It's going to allow us to have a greater chance at making comebacks in these games. And then, the power play that's been so anemic, like Ekholm plays penalty kill minutes. He's one of their best defenders. And so that could help with the special teams as well on our side.
Yeah, that's and that kind of segues, right into the special teams talk where that is just, I don't think Edmonton's going to go 50% again or whatever they did, but they even still, like they're more than capable of going high 30s, 40%. And that's a big problem if that happens again.
Scored 9 power play goals last year, and the Kings scored 0. So,
it can only go up from there.
Exactly. I don't think it's any surprise or like any secret that the special teams is the biggest probably factor in terms of what's going to decide this series.
What's 92 is saying that we've scored the most goals in the league since the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's a little inflated by a couple of those 7-goal outbursts, which they happen. It is what it is. I'm just not going to sit here and call the Kings an offensive threat of a team. I'm just not.
Even their own coaches said that.
Yeah, since these is we're just not going to score a lot of goals. Like they and that's not how they play either. Like that's the thing. Those goals, like that's not the norm. Like it happened in those games. It's just not the way they play. They don't play to score 7 goals.
The data man doesn't like the data, huh?
I want data that's predictable. So I'll say we talked. So if anybody doesn't purchase or listen to Jack Hahn on the PDO cast, his Twitter feed is outstanding. He has a Substack. I highly recommend it. He's a former assistant coach for the Leafs. He's still involved in consulting for various hockey teams. He's an incredible hockey mind. If you haven't bought his hockey tactics book, I highly recommend it. And I thought what was interesting in reading a little bit about the special teams matchup, particularly Edmonton's penalty kill, the way that they set up it's kind of a wedge format, and it takes away teams that try to kind of use the down low option, which is interesting because the Kings haven't really had a down low option up until the Kuzmenko trade. And now they're going against a team that kind of their strength is taking that away, where the team where this team can be vulnerable is perhaps a seam pass. So maybe a Fiala to Kempe seam pass type of thing could be something that we see a little bit more of this series on the power play. So just something that I thought was interesting, that something that has made the Kings power play at least look a little bit more dangerous was Kuzmenko. And, Edmonton appears to be a team that has done a decent job at taking that away. So we'll see how that plays out in this series too.
Well, you mentioned Fiala to Kempe. It's more or less been Kempe to Fiala this
Yeah.
year. I mean, Fiala's got 14 power play goals, I feel like, this season. I mean, that's almost like, we talked about Kuzmenko and his presence alone on the power play and how, like, I mean, Joe, you've been preaching this for a couple of years now to have that down low presence. I guess ever since Velarde left, to have that down low presence has definitely benefited the Kings in terms of, I think their power play is like 24%, 23% trending since that acquisition. But I mean, to have that now Kevin Fiala threat in terms of shooting, that's a totally different option that I feel like the Kings haven't had before. He's always been the guy that's been the one to defer, and now it's been Kempe that's been the one deferring. So it's like, if they can figure out a way to find those cross seam passes, and if they do take away the down low presence, but like, this is just having that Kuzmenko alone is, if they want to focus on that and really help out with opening up more lanes going laterally, I guess, to Kempe or Fiala. We'll see. I think they'll be able. Although Kempe's more or less been playing the point now, I guess, with the 5 forward power play.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that, guys?
I'm a little surprised.
Right.
Can I be honest? Like, this is for a team that is just, admittedly, you just said it with him. Hiller admitted, like, we're not going to score goals. It's just us, paraphrasing. But for him to be like, let's roll 5 forwards on the power play. That seems like very LA Kings. I love it. If only to say, like, can't we, like, why not? Like, if you're going to take Doughty off, why not just try Clark? Like, are we really that against?
I think a lot of it has to do with the reason I think they're doing it is because I wonder if they're worried about Doughty's immobility on the back end. Like, if puck goes the other way, or typical Sean Dursey type turnover, where it's like, okay, now you get a breakaway the other way. You're not going to have Doughty be able to overcome that. So you have Kempe back there, we all know how great he is as far as playing like a hybrid defender. So you have that option, I guess. And I feel like that when we saw the 5 forward power play unit at the beginning of the year, it was more or less just kind of a last resort kind of thing because they were just struggling so bad. But like you said, Joe, it's been kind of a surprise that they're going back to the well this time around.
I'm here for it though. Like, I love it. I got no issues. And Kempe, I think, is pretty capable. Like, I'm not worried about Kempe because I know, if a forward gets caught on a 2-on-1. Now, listen, obviously Kempe is not going to play a 2-on-1 as good as Drew Doughty is, right? But I think of all the forwards, Kempe is probably pretty well suited back there, to be honest with you. So I like it. I like it. So I'm here for that. Yeah,
I mean, it seems to be working. I mean, to an extent, and like, it's not like we're like lighting the lamp crazy, but since the trade deadline, our power play percentage has gone up over 2 points. So, it has been somewhat effective, and I think now that we do have a down low option, it's not like teams used to just have to take away one thing, and that was it, and then there was no power play for the Kings, and it was just all point shots and hope we get a tip. Now we have a lot more options down there, and it's been a fun experiment, and hopefully it works out. I think it's a rewarding Byfield for his play. Byfield's shot has looked a lot better this year, and they're kind of rewarding him there. And do you think that they keep Doughty off the power play completely, and is Clark going to be the number 2 guy? Like, how do you guys feel like the number 2 will go? Because Doughty hasn't been playing, so
Yeah, I think Doughty has been practicing with the second unit. I just think you just go to that well there. I think I saw, who was it? I want to get their name. They asked Picard's Butterfly. It might be an Oiler fan. They said, do you worry about Edmonton running 97 or 29 on the PK against the 5 forwards? Could lead to shorthanded breaks, decent counterpunch from Edmonton. And I think that's why a lot of people are fine with Kempe playing that last man back that we just talked about, because he's shown that he has that capability. But that's still definitely a threat that I'm sure the Kings will have to be careful of. But if the Oilers are willing to play 97 and 29 on a penalty kill, I mean, if that takes away from their time 5-on-5, then I'm happy with it.
I think they do anyways. I think they've always, maybe not the top penalty kills, but I'm pretty sure I'd have to be fact checked on that. I'm pretty sure that they've always played penalty kill. I thought I saw a comment earlier that the Kings power play since Kuzmenko was top 5. I don't know. I just did a quick filter of the last 20 games, and it's 27th. So like the power play, they wouldn't be switching to 5 forwards if it was going that well. But I'm here. Go ahead. Let's go.
Mhm.
Give me all the skill and like the Drew Doughty thing. I'm glad you brought this up, and it's just like again, we are way. I hate to be this guy, but we just talking about the Edmonton injuries. Like Drew Doughty's not healthy, guys. Like he may be out there, but do you trust him against McDavid and Draisaitl 5-on-5? Because I don't. So again, we're just glossing over stuff for pure optimism. I feel like sometimes, and I don't know. That his injury makes me nervous. I'm definitely concerned about his mobility and his foot, or his ankle.
Yeah, I just looked it up. McDavid and Draisaitl have really played no penalty kill time at all this year. They have McDavid's 4 minutes and Draisaitl 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm sure. I think they have in the past because I know I've seen it at times.
Yeah,
so
for some reason I'm picturing it, but obviously I'm way off.
Let's get to the D pairs. And how do we feel like this D core is compared to previous seasons? How do they match up with obviously Edmonton's speed and everything like that? Are we comfortable now after a full season with Clark and Spence playing high level of minutes in the playoffs?
Yeah, that's the big question mark, because I feel like I was kind of looking at last year's lineup, comparing it to this year, and obviously the top pair is the same with Anderson and Doughty. Second pair, you have Gavrikov still there, but now it's Spence instead of Roy. And on the third pair, it's Edmondson instead of Englund on the third pair, and Clark instead of Spence, I guess, on the third pair. So I feel like the D pairs are pretty much the same, in my opinion. I think Edmondson maybe is slightly better than Englund is. I mean, at least analytically, Edmondson has not been good, but I mean, this is more or less why the Kings brought in a player like Joel Edmondson to help out in terms of these playoffs. I mean, they're very high on players. Obviously, it's the LA Kings we're talking about. They're very high on those left shot defensemen, those big, rangy left shot defensemen that can just kind of stick their stick out and cover 10 feet of ice just like that. They might not be the most mobile, but they'll hopefully be able to take out a lot of the front net presence and try to bring a little bit more physicality. But as far as the second pair, I'm really curious to see how Jordan Spence maybe plays in a higher role. I know he had a really strong playoff series last year. At least that's what the numbers pointed to. So yeah, now that he's playing with Gavrikov and probably going to be one of the players who has to go up against either McDavid or Draisaitl, those are big minutes that you're going to have to perform against. So we'll see what the matchups dictate. But yeah, and then you have Brent Clark too. Obviously, we haven't seen playoff Brent Clark. How is he going to perform in this environment? I think I would hope to see Clark maybe kind of subdue his, I don't want to say attitude, but sometimes he has that antics a little bit where he maybe roughs things up, especially as the after the whistle stuff, which I'm totally here for. Love seeing that. But in the playoffs, the Oilers are definitely going to try to goad you into a penalty or two. They're going to know it just as much as anybody. And I know once Corey Perry's, he's going to go to the front of the net and do typical Corey Perry stuff. Brent Clark's just going to have to turn the other way and maybe just get a stick up, just kind of hope for the best and just not take a penalty. So, but yeah, you got some young players who are now playing big minutes, but it's more or less, I feel like it's the same kind of defensive mindset that the Kings have had in years past.
Yeah, I mean, my concern, obviously, well, I say Edmondson Clark isn't going to be out there most likely against McDavid or Draisaitl, but I think we'll see plenty of Edmondson against those two. I think we're going to see a lot of Gavrikov Edmondson. Not regularly, to your point, Spence, but I think we're going to see plenty of Gavrikov Edmondson. That scares me a little bit. And again, kind of what I was going back to earlier, Mike Anderson has really struggled against Connor McDavid, at least analytically, right? I mean, out attempted since those last 3 series against McDavid, out attempted 189 to 122, outshot 103 to 65, outscored 13-4, expected goal share of 31.8%. That's Mike Anderson against McDavid. And I suspect he's going to be against McDavid. Maybe he'll be against Draisaitl. I don't know. We'll see. But again, that's still the same. Yeah. So,
and you probably have maybe a less mobile Doughty too, which is
that's right. That's what I mean, and that's a concern. So this idea.
I think the second D pairing, though, is better than last year. I mean, Matt Roy played a solid game, but Gavrikov has elevated his game to a new level. And I think Spence is equal to Matt Roy's play overall this season. So do you think the second pair kind of vaults the Kings up a little bit as far as defensively? Not maybe as an X factor, but as a quality second pair that they can rely on?
I don't know if it vaults him up. You guys know I was always a huge Matt Roy guy. It's funny, though, because I was kind of looking – it was funny that you bring it up because I was looking at Matt Roy's numbers last year compared to this year now with Washington, and they've dipped. I think he's had one of his worst seasons in terms of expected goal share and all that good stuff. Not that it's bad. It's just not as good because, like, I think Holden 92, I think that's who brought it up in the chat, talks about Vladislav Gavrikov having – a career year, at least in terms of shutdown numbers. And yeah, like he's been outstanding. And that's where it's like, I want to see like how much that has been because of Jordan Spence, because Gavrikov Roy, their numbers were a little worse than they are now with Gavrikov Spence, at least as far as comparing last year to this year. So what will Jordan Spence or how will Jordan Spence be able to perform against now when he's going from playing third pair minutes, not being looked at to be this kind of, I guess, quote unquote, shut down guy, or maybe go up against top pair minutes now. But now you're in the thick of it. You're playing, probably going to be looked at to play 15, 16 minutes a night. I don't think he's like, I'm with Joe. Like, I feel like if the Kings go up a couple goals, like we've seen it throughout the entire year, we talked about it. If the Kings go up a couple goals, it'll be Edmondson Gavrikov at times. In third period or whatever, and then we'll have the Anderson Doughty, and it would be just those four rotating in and out. So, but yeah, like at 5-on-5 at the beginning of the game or early parts of the game, like how is Gavrikov Spence going to perform? Are they be able to do kind of the similar things that they've been able to do all season and have really strong numbers like Jordan Spence is having? I don't know what his numbers are, but I feel like it's probably been career years as far as expected goal share and shot share and all that good stuff. So yeah, like what will he be able to bring now that he's playing a top four role?
And to your point, he's been really good in the playoffs in his short career here. Now, you know, it's his large minutes have come against Ryan McLeod, Corey Perry, Kane, Holloway. Like his fewest minutes have come against, you know, among his fewest minutes have been Draisaitl and McDavid. But he's performed. It's only been 10 minutes against Draisaitl, 12 minutes against McDavid. Performed quite well in those minutes, but it's 10 and 12 minutes. But you know, there is. You know, we're big Jordan Spence. I think it's certainly different, Randon. Matt Roy was definitely much more of like he's obviously bigger, longer, defensive defenseman, pure through and through, where Jordan Spence, I think, is an underrated defenseman on the defensive side of the puck. I don't know if he's like prime Matt Roy, LA Kings has shutdown wise good, but he is good. And I think he's a little more capable. So to your point, Randon, like maybe it is just enough of a different look to where, you know, he can help maybe get them up and out of the zone a little bit better. So I think that's there. I just wonder though, I really think we're not going to get a true look at it because I don't know that Hiller trusts him enough. I think he's going to lean heavy on Edmondson this series. So we'll see.
I mean, the ultimate X factor is going to be future Conn Smythe winner Brant Clark, in my opinion. So, I think they should trust him. I mean, you know, and they've shown. I mean, 105 points. Like the team has looked well. They've been the most offensively gifted team since the trade deadline. So, like, where's the evidence not been proven that you can trust these guys? Will it be out of fear that they go to Gavrikov and Edmondson? Will it be out of, you know, you're up 3-0 or 2-1 and then they tie it up and you kind of clench the butt cheeks? Is that kind of what's going to be going on here? Or, you know, I just don't understand. Like, go with what got you there. Like, trust the players that got you there. And, you know, I mean, I get it. You know, it's you want to shelter some of these kids, but playoffs are where some of these kids shine and they grow into be the players that they are. And, maybe I just think they need to be given a chance.
I think you're 100% right, Randon. I just think that the NHL in general is a risk-averse league. And I think in Jim Hiller's mind, if he's going to lose a game, it's going to be with Edmonton on the ice. It's not going to be Jordan Spence on the ice. It's kind of the way he's going to look at that, like late in the game, or if that he's not going he's going to lose. He'd rather lose with Edmonton than lose with Spence, if that makes sense. Like he's going to trust Edmonton, because this is exactly why he's here. They brought him in for this. This series basically is one of the reasons he's here, for better or for worse. I can't agree with Russ anymore. Like, I love Gavrikov Spence. I think Spence is great. I think he's really come a long way this season after a rough start. I would love to see them lean on Gavrikov Spence, and hopefully it goes well. So we'll see, though. We'll see.
Let's get to the back end here. Kemper has won a cup, and he is a Vezina finalist, in my opinion. So the goaltending has been a lot better this year. He got to rest a little bit down the stretch. How big of an impact is Darcy Kemper in this series?
Massive. I mean, any goaltender against Edmonton Oilers are probably massive. But yeah, I think this year more or less is because I feel like this is the best goalie option that the Kings have iced. No offense to Jonathan Quick, who's on the back end of his career coming to LA or in LA. Jonas Korpisalo, who played pretty good couple games. I think the first 2 games he was really strong, and then kind of fell apart a little bit in the third game and in the rest of the series. And then last year is Cam Talbot, who it was the whole team really. It just wasn't really that good. So it's really hard to pinpoint anything or point to anything wrong with Talbot at least. But this year, yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's hard because like throughout the year, I mean, you would talk about how the Kings are like this huge defensive or big defensive team, how the expected goals are really going to be way down in every game they play, and one of the best in terms of that mindset. So when you talk about with Darcy Kemper and all the great things he's been doing this year, and it's like, well, you look at how the Kings play defense, it's certainly going to help him out. But I mean, at least in terms of high danger, I could be wrong here, but I feel like he's one of the best, if not the best goalie in terms of high danger save percentage. So when you go up against a team like McDavid and Draisaitl, who are going to get a lot of those high danger chances, you're going to need a goalie to step up. And I feel like Darcy Kemper has that skill set to be able to overcome those chances for Edmonton. So yeah, like I absolutely love Kings' chances, at least their matchup in terms of the goal in net between Kemper and Skinner.
More than the depth, more than the D pairs, this is the hands down biggest mismatch that the Kings have, is Kemper versus Skinner. And everybody knows I've been a bigger Skinner guy than most. I don't care that he's not been that good. Hashtag goalies. Any goalie in these playoffs can have a good 7 games in a short series. So I think Skinner, and again, I've said before, been saying it all pod, the Kings aren't a team that generates a ton of scoring chances. So the effect or the inability of Skinner means maybe a little less against a team like the Kings, right? But going to Kemper, to your question, Brandon, it's huge. And Russ, I referenced Clearside Analytics earlier, and they have just enough statistics up to be a little bit of a teaser. It's not a public site, but they do have a few public statistics up there.
You could kind of see it just a little bit.
Just a little teaser. So you mentioned about how the Kings are, expected goals. So can we really say much about Kemper? And I've talked about it before too, like the environment's great, but they have a statistic called goaltender save contribution rating, which is basically the amount of expected goals versus like the goal save above expected in their model, which is they take a lot of pre-shot activity, and it's so regardless, all that to say, Kemper's number 1 in the NHL, ahead of Hellebuck, ahead of a lot of guys. So he has been, though the environment is great, he has been great. He's probably going to be somebody that's in, the Vezina finalist consideration, whether he gets into the top 3, but he's comfortably going to finish top 5. And you know what? Whether he gets into a finalist or not, like, he's been a top 5 goal in the NHL this year. So he needs to, you play a series against Edmonton, you're a team that doesn't score a ton. You're going to need your goalie to steal you a game or 2 against the Oilers. He's going to need to steal a game this series. And I think he can. He's played really well. The environment's good enough. Like, I think Kemper is again a much better goaltender and is playing much better than Stuart Skinner. Now, that doesn't mean that Stuart Skinner can't come in and play well. He can. We've seen it. You know, he made Game 7 of the Cup final last year. So they can win a cup with Skinner. It's been a rough go of it, but we've seen this time and again where, you know, goalies for a short time play well, and anybody can. So, but that said, this is a big mismatch, and they need Kemper to be the Kemper he's been all season. That's the other part of the coin, is like, he can't falter at all. Like, he can't slip. They need Kemper to keep going at this level that he's been at. There's no reason to believe he can't. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah, that's a big mismatch in the Kings' favor.
I mean, I think he is the X factor. I mean, he's going to have to steal games, like you mentioned. He is going to have to stand on his head. There is going to be moments where you're probably going to see a 2-on-1 with McDavid or Draisaitl coming down the lane. He's going to have to make a big save. So, and then obviously their power play did anything they wanted to last year with us, and he's going to have to come up some big, on the penalty kill for us. So I think he's going to be the X factor. He has to have a phenomenal series, but I think the people playing in front of him is a whole lot better than in years past, as far as a deeper team in front of him or in front of the goalie. So it's going to be big there. I don't know what you guys make of this. I know last year with the 1-3-1, the Edmonton had a game plan for it. They did that slingshot play where they got everybody's momentum coming up, and it absolutely just pegged us in and destroyed us. Do you think the fact that we're playing a same mindset defensively, but a different system, do you think that helps not edge the Kings, but that there's not like a game plan for how to go against the 1-3-1 or the neutral zone? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
Well, I mean, I would just like to see the Kings be more aggressive on the forecheck that they have in years past is all, because I feel like if you can force players like Nurse and Bouchard and even like Emberson to maybe turn around and just go back and retrieve pucks and really focus on taking the body against those players, I feel like they're not as good. I mean, not that they're not as good, but I feel like if you can take the body and be more physical with them on the forecheck, I feel like you can lessen their impact positively a little bit more than maybe some other teams. So I feel like that's the bigger weakness, at least for Bouchard for sure, because it seems like he's not the most willing to take on those hits or be a more physical player. So yeah, like, I don't know if it's more or less going to change the series outcome besides the format, because like you said, they're really still focused on playing solid defensively, having the forwards track back against the rush going the other way. So that's always going to be a focus. But yeah, if you can allow the forwards to be more aggressive, at least in the offensive zone, and take it to the defenders of the Oilers a little bit more, then yeah, I think it definitely benefits the Kings.
Yeah, and I think the Kings are where the Ekholm loss does potentially play a factor, especially, you know, with a Nurse and Bouchard pairing. Like, they are, and we've seen them be pretty quick strike, right? Quick off the rush.
Yeah.
Turnovers in the neutral zone type of thing. Like, I still think that's kind of the Kings' preference, if you will. Like, I know they want to get in and they want to buzz around and try to get in on a forecheck and things like that. But I think for them to beat Edmonton, they're going to have to be opportunistic off the rush, and that's creating turnovers in the neutral zone. And this is credit to, again, Jack Hahn listened to the PDO cast and his preview. Like, the Kings are one of the more they generate a lot of rush scoring shots on goal. They're one of the higher teams at generating shots on goal off the rush, but they don't score a ton off the rush because it's very north-south. There's not a lot of east-west. It's shoot the puck, crash, right, and then buzz around and hope for rebounds and stuff like that. So, but if you can score, then if you got a series where you have a high shooting percentage off the rush, then they can do really well. So we'll see. I think it'll be better, Randon, in that I do think it'll be better in the sense that the 1-3-1 was just so incredibly defensive that they were just willing to absorb the oncoming pressure, where the Kings in the neutral zone this year are a little bit more on their toes, a little bit more on their front foot, and a little bit more creating those turnovers in the neutral zone. And that, I think, will help them in net transition and off the rush. I mean, that they're looking to get up and go north-south, and I think this allows them to do that a little bit better.
I think the players in the forward group are better this year with their aggressiveness and like their willingness to forecheck and everything like that. I think the team is kind of set up that way, and the buy-in has been there all year of that's our identity. That's what we're going to do. And so for a team who just sat back and just took licks off the chin all playoffs in the neutral zone, I think this team is going to be a lot more willing to go get the puck and create some havoc and kind of live and die by that. You know, if they get beat, it is what it is. But last year, I mean, we just sat there and took body shot after body shot, and it was just, you know, it ended up being too much to take on.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it. You brought up buy-in, and I mean, I don't know how many players have brought up that fact as far as I know. Drew Doughty at least talked about it today, that the entire team's bought in to the system, and credit to Jim Hiller, who's been able to do that and able to rile up this Kings team into focusing more on this defensive style mindset and play a more of cohesive style game. And yeah, like as opposed to years past, like now you have a team that's really fully bought in, and you don't really see a lot of holes, at least in terms of like you're maybe worried as when you see certain players on the ice compared to years past. Not to say that I want to see Hellenius go up against McDavid, but like I feel a little bit more confident in terms of what Hellenius is able to do, at least that fourth line is able to do, as opposed to certain fourth lines in the past. So yeah, like I think the buy-in is a huge factor and what will carry this team hopefully to a series win here.
We got a little LA Kings Nick coming back in with a $6.99.
Nick, what's up, man?
That way, Nick.
Need to get on Bouchard off the jump. He does not take a hit to make a play. He will cough up the puck not to be hit. Footsteps Falco of the NFL or the NHL.
I mean, I fully expect the Kings to come out absolutely flying. I don't know what line we'll see. Obviously, who starts the game. The first shift for all of these guys, they're going to be buzzing, and I listen. I can see the Kings scoring within the first 5 minutes because I think that's going to be. It's one of those, you know. If you're the road team, you got to try to weather the storm of that first, 5-10 minutes of the home team in this playoff series, because, if there's ever a time where home ice matters, it might be this first puck drop of game one, these first 5 minutes or so, because the Kings are going to be coming, right?
Yeah, set the tone, right? I mean, you have a lot of these players, and I'm sure that the like I asked Hiller like what the message is to that fourth line. He said just be simple. Where if you go out and score goals, great. But just go out, get pucks deep, and just take a body. And that's how it should be. Like, because you've seen, obviously, we've watched playoff hockey. We've watched the games this weekend. I mean, that home crowd, any sort of board rattling that happens, you could miss a body check. That board rattles, the crowd's going to go crazy. And it's just, I'm sure it gets the players amped up too. So, yeah, like go out there, get a puck deep, and take a body. Like, I feel like if you get that the first 5 minutes, and I think, yeah, like you mentioned, Joe, like having that game one in LA, this team, they've been rested. The last couple games have been LA. They've had this break now, so they've had time to rest. I mean, since that, there's no travel that they have to worry about going up to Edmonton, sitting in Edmonton hotel, waiting for game one to happen, hearing that damn goal horn that we have to hear all the time, like hearing seeing all the orange in the crowd. Like, no, you don't have to worry about that stuff. So if I'm a Kings player, if I'm Quentin Byfield and I see number 25 on the other end, I'm not carrying the puck. I'm chipping it deep and going hunting. That's what I would do, because I know the crowd, maybe it's not the best play, but the crowd's going to go absolutely nuts if they see Darnell Nurse take a lick for Quentin Byfield in the first couple minutes of the game. Absolutely nuts. So, yeah, it's going to be a huge, huge factor to keep the crowd into it. So that first goal is going to be, like I talked about, the first goal is going to be huge.
It's huge for the Kings, yeah.
Yeah, if you can get that first goal, keep the momentum going, keep the crowd into it throughout the entire game, like I feel like that will be what will help the Kings in terms of home ice, because I don't know what the matchups will dictate. We just talked about the matchups earlier on. It is what it is. But yeah, like if you can keep the crowd into it and kind of keep the momentum going, I feel like that'd be huge.
I think it's a big thing to prove that the Kings are not the redheaded stepchild against Edmonton. I think the Kings got to prove it to themselves. And so putting the pedal to the metal, going out there, throwing some licks, getting a goal, and hey, we're here. Like, I mean, it's always that way when you get, when I'm a big brother, and the first time my middle brother, I'm 5 years old, and the first time my middle brother and I wrestled, and he was about as strong as me, I was like, okay, like what's going on here? Like, it's not as easy as it used to be, and I think the Kings have to do that. They have, hey, this series isn't going to be as easy as it was in the past. Like, we're going to come and take it to you, and that's what they have to do. I said it before, and I say it again. I'm tired of getting beat up by the Oilers, and I'm sure these players are too. So let's go out there and hit them in the freaking jaw. Like, why not have that mentality that we're coming here to break bodies, and if we lose, we lose. But let's go out swinging. Let's not back up or cower to the team above the border.
Is it good or bad that half their lineup? Because what did you say? Like 8? I'd have to actually do the math and see how many
8 players is different.
Okay, so almost is it? They don't have that.
Yeah.
Is it better or worse that they don't have that revenge? We got to get the Oilers, because, or is it, or do they're just coming in like, this is another series for me. I wasn't here the last 3 years. There's
no. I think they inherit it. I feel like when they come into LA, like they know what's been going on here, and a lot of those new players are also younger players that have been part of the organization, have been watching it too. So yeah, you have that Hellenius, Turcotte, Brian Clark. They know what's been going on here. And then you have Warren Fogle, who's obviously been a part of it. So it's like, and now he's part on the other side. So yeah, he's probably doing it more than anybody else. So yeah, I feel like that's a big factor.
What's a big factor right here? Al Smith, with a $30 holler, no question, just sending some playoff love. Thank you, Al. Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate that, Al.
Yeah, I mean, Warren Fogle. Hey, you guys got rid of me. I'm going to make you pay. You have the whole identity of this thing. I mean, let's just go hit him in the freaking jaw. And if we lose, we lose. It is what it is. They were in the Stanley Cup last year for a reason. They do have 2 of the top 5 best players in the NHL. But I'm tired of sitting and cowering and being this team that, we have to eke out a game by 1 goal in order to win. Like, no, let's just go out there and beat the crap out of them. Why not? Like, I mean, doesn't mean we're going to win the series, but let's go down fighting. Like, let's go down with some attitude, with some panache. Like, we just cowered in the corner and let them hit us last year. And I just don't want to be that type of player.
There's definitely a better like moxie to this club than I've felt in last year or in years past. Like, just being around the locker room, talking to the guys, like you can sense like there's a confidence and a belief now in this team that there probably has. I haven't felt really. It's almost been like you talked about, Randon, where it's like the bigger brother. It's like, oh, now we just got to find a way to slay the dragon or slay the giant or whatever. And now I feel like it's like, okay, well, they know, or they have that belief now that they can do it, that they fully are the better team. And I mean, I just hope it carries them to the win.
If you're the Kings, you got to smell blood. You have to smell blood. There's no Ekholm. Draisaitl has been missed a lot of time here. I don't know what percent he's at. You have to come out flying. You have to get that first one, get Edmonton on their heels early. I think that just has to happen in game 1. There's no reason or no excuse for it to not happen. The last thing you need is for all this optimism, all this buzz around the Kings and all the vibes and everything. And then Edmonton scores 2 minutes into the game. It's like, come on, so that can't happen. Not to say they can't still come back and win, but just in the sake of, like, again, just game 1 to go out and I think winning game 1 this year would mean more than it has. Like, the Kings have won 2 of the 3 game 1s, right? In Edmonton, the last couple of playoff rounds. I think it would mean more this year, even though it's on the road, and last time it was on the road, even though it's at home and the last ones were on the road, which is a little weird. I just think again, if you're a believer in the vibes and you're a believer in the momentum and you're a believer in all that stuff, then this game 1 is massive for you. Because in order to keep that, you got to keep winning. Right, and that starts to go away if you do lose. So this start to the game is huge, and And frankly, selfishly, I'm just happy it's at 10 o'clock instead of 10:30. So I'm loving that, by the way. Side note. So
I think yeah, you're right. Well, I think winning the first game has been more important this year than it is any year. I mean, the stats dictate that winning game one overwhelmingly gives you a better chance to win the series. But if the home ice continues and they go up 2-0 going into Edmonton, like confidence just all confidence does is grows. It grows with the team. It grows with each individual player, and I think that could snowball into a positive.
Yeah, where are you guys at? So obviously home ice has been talked about ad nauseum the last month or so. Where are you guys at if this is a split heading to Edmonton? Like, I mean, I'm not at all like, I don't think that's I don't know. Like, I don't know. Where are you? Because I know the road team wants to come in and get a split. So if the road team comes in and gets a split, then that's mission accomplished, right? Where are you at then if that's the case here in LA going on the road to Edmonton, if Edmonton comes in and gets a split?
Yeah, I mean, it would suck, but I don't think it would be the end of the world because I feel like, I mean, if you're getting that split and you're going back 1-1, I mean, like you just said, Joe, in years past, it's been the same thing. The Kings have come back to LA with a split in every series. So, I don't know.
That's right. They won all three.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's like, no, and then last year they won game 2. So, it's like,
okay. Sorry.
But, yeah, I mean, just game 1, I feel like would be, if they can figure out a way to win game 1, even if they lose game 2, like, I don't want to think about it, but yeah, like it would just go back to Edmonton and you still, whatever, it's still split. It's still a 7-game series. It is what it is. So, yeah. And I just think game 1 is just the more important, which is so funny. We're all agreeing on that aspect, which is funny to say because the home team should win game 1. And if you win game 1 on the road, you're more or less stealing home ice advantage. But that's not the case this year, whereas Kings would just have to hope to keep home ice advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. Let's get into a little bit of the other series here. We'll do a mini coast to coast and then give our predictions for the series. So let's go down the Eastern Conference first. Toronto with a big win today, and so they're up in the series 1-0. How do you guys view that Toronto on Ottawa series?
Yeah, I watched the game tonight. Joe, we were just talking about it before we started here, and you could definitely tell like Ottawa was just like the lights were too bright tonight, and it was just like, okay, we're in the playoffs. It's been talked about how the playoffs are a different breed. So you have these players like Stützle and Brady Tkachuk and Dylan Cousins and all these young players that really haven't had that taste yet. And you finally go in there and you get your first playoff experience in Toronto in the Battle of Ontario. It's like, okay, like, yeah, you're going to have that. There's going to be times in situations where you maybe take a penalty you probably shouldn't have, and the crowd's going to get into it and get on you, and you're just going to dig yourself even more into a hole. And that's more or less, I feel like, what we saw tonight. But I still think that the Senators will make this a competitive series. I'd have to go back on my predictions, but I think I ended up picking the Leafs in 7, so I'll stick with that.
I'm with Russ. I don't think this is going to be a short series. I think this goes 6. I think I picked the Leafs in 6. I'm still I still am a bit of a believer in this Ottawa team. I think we'll see a better effort from them in game 2 and the rest of the series. I think they'll be more competitive than this 6-2 loss at game 1 showed. But I did pick Toronto at 6.
I'm taking Toronto as well. I think Ottawa. I mean, I just think it's hard when you have so much inexperience, and I guess we talked about it with the Kings. There is a lot of inexperience there, but you also have cup winners as well to kind of balance that out. Like this team is very fresh up and down that lineup to playoff hockey outside of their goaltender. So it's gonna be something of a learning experience. Will they learn it this series and be able to pull off a win? Who knows? But Ottawa finally gets into the dance after a long period of time. Their fans need it. And so I'm just happy that their fans get to see some home ice games in the playoffs. So that'll be good for them. And if they can make it a competitive series and to go to 6 or 7 games, I think it'd be good for Ottawa regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, I think their best player tonight was David Perron. Just goes to tell you what experience does. We all remember David Perron and his time against LA.
Series number 2, Tampa Bay versus Florida, a little juggernaut matchup right there. A lot of pundits' favorite to win the Stanley Cup is the Tampa Bay Lightning. How do you guys view that heavy hitter series?
Yeah, Battle of Florida. going to be a war. I think the Panthers, and maybe we just talked about the Oilers being banged up. I mean, the Panthers are just as banged up as probably any team going against the playoffs. There's really a lot of unknowns with Matthew Tkachuk. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? I feel like he probably will, but even then, you have other players who haven't really been playing a lot of hockey lately, even though they probably don't need to. They have that experience we talked about with Ottawa. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think Tampa Bay has just been probably playing one of the better teams over this last stretch at the end of the season. Nikita Kucherov, our Ross winner, I believe. Vasilevsky just looks like Vasilevsky of old, typical things. And I feel like the additions of Yanni Gord coming back and Bjorkstrand too, those are two big pieces that really help that depth lineup there. So I got Tampa in 7 in that matchup.
Yeah, again, I'm with Russ here. I got Tampa in 6. I just think they're really good, really good. And Florida, take nothing away from Florida. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida does win this series, that they go on another run here to potentially make the Cup final. But I think their injuries are going to be a little too much in their health. Even if Tkachuk plays, he hasn't played in a while, and he's obviously not 100%. And I see Holden 92 talking about Tampa Bay is super deep. See, it really holds a lot more water when you're talking about depth, when you've got the elite Kucherov and the like at the top of the lineup and the Gensels and such. So, yes, that's a great point. They are star-studded up top, and they're deep. They're really good. I got Tampa in 6.
It's going to be a clean sweep here. I got Tampa in 6 as well. If we knew more about the injuries for Florida, I think that you would have a better idea what you see in there. But erring on the side of caution, but I don't think any of us would be surprised here if Florida turns it back on and is the Florida Panthers of yesteryear. So Tampa in 6 in this series, which would put Tampa against Toronto in round 2 if that were to happen. So going down to the bottom of the bracket, Montreal squeaks in as the wild card 2 facing the Washington Capitals. Nobody thought the Washington Capitals would be the number 1 seed overall in this tournament. So what are you guys feeling from this series? Is it going to be a pretty clean sweep, or do you think the Canadians have a chance here?
Yeah, a couple of surprises in this matchup. You just referenced them. Nobody really thinking that the Capitals would be a number 1 team. I don't think a lot of people picked Montreal to make the playoffs here. So, but here they are. I think it'll be a quick series, in my opinion. I know Washington, there's a lot of question marks, and maybe one of those teams that they're just kind of the top of the seed that a lot of teams are maybe threatened by. But, I mean, I think Montreal is just kind of just riding off vibes here. They're riding off a really electric home crowd at Bell Center. But, yeah, I just think Washington's just too good of a team. I think I've always said that I really like their defensive core. They have one of the better defensive groupings in the National Hockey League. And then you have a really solid goaltending, too, with Logan Thompson back there. I think it'll be a good coming out party for Montembeault, the goalie in Montreal, because he's going to take a licking. And if Montreal's going to be in it, he's probably going to have to stand on his head a game or two. But I still got Washington in 5.
I think he's capable. He's a really good goalie. I agree on that part with Montembeault. Very interested to see what Demidov's impact on this series is for Montreal. He made quite the splash in his debut. He looks like a heck of a player. Listen, I'm not one I don't think Washington is like best in the East good, but I also don't think they're like being overrated. I think they're a solid hockey team. I'm picking Montreal just for fun. Okay, guys, I love Montreal. I've always been a closet Montreal fan. I got Habs in 7. I want the Bell Center rocking. I want to hear the Olays. Give me Habs in 7.
Ooh, a little upsetting in round 1. Yeah, Demidov showing his quick hands and then showing why people thought he was a liability defensively down the stretch of the same game. So, I like it there. I mean, I'm going to go Washington in 6. I just think they're the better team, and it's gonna be a nice little series there. Going to the bottom part of that bracket, we have Carolina and the Devils. Carolina is already up 1-0 against New Jersey, who is missing Mr. Jack Hughes, their number 1 center for the rest of the playoffs. Is it going to be too much to overcome for the Devils to beat Carolina?
Yeah, I watched that game today, and the Devils just kind of looked like a broken team. It almost looked like it seems like that Jack Hughes injury is probably take a lot of confidence. I'm sure. I mean, you lose your superstar player, one of the better players in the NHL. That's going to take a lot of confidence out of anybody. But yeah, it just seemed like they were outmatched. And credit to Carolina and Logan Stankoven, 2 goals today. I think a lot of people questioned how that trade would turn out, but looked pretty good today. So I got Carolina in 6.
I got Carolina in 5. It just sucks. I was talking to Russ before we got on here. It's like, it genuinely, as a hockey fan, like, set aside our fandom for a second. Like, it sucks that you've got, Jack Hughes out, Matthew Tkachuk highly questionable, Ekholm out, Heiskanen out. We talked about, you mentioned Russ,
Jason Robertson out,
Velarde, Jason Robertson. Like, these are legit cup contending teams that are missing key players, and it really sucks from a hockey standpoint. But I think it's too much for New Jersey to overcome. I think the Canes, even with Jack Hughes, it was going to be a tough series. The Canes are really freaking good. I got Canes in 5.
Canes in 5 as well. Let's flip it over to the Western here. Up top, Winnipeg already up 1-0 with a dazzler in the last minute against St. Louis. St. Louis looked really good in that game. Where do you guys see this series going?
Oh, man, I was so mad watching that game because I had money on St. Louis to win. Bennington, you kill me. I thought St. Louis still played really well in that game. I didn't think it was one team really had advantage throughout that 60 minutes over the other. I thought it was really even. And I think the injuries to Ehlers and Velarde are really going to take its toll on this series long-term for Winnipeg. I mean, Velarde, they kept referencing the Winnipeg power play, but it's a different power play without Velarde. We've seen it obviously in LA. So, I mean, I know the Blues, they have their injuries too. Dylan Holloway's out week to week. That's a big loss. Like Joe just talked about, all these teams are dealing with losses. But I still think the Jets will be able to pull it out. But it'll be a long series, so I got Winnipeg in 7.
Agreed. Same. It's Winnipeg in 7. Credit to the Blues and the stretch they had and all that stuff. But I think that they're an intriguing team heading into next year. They've been really much better under Jim Montgomery, so we'll see what they do in the offseason. But I think even without Velarde and Ehlers, Connor Hellebuck's, I know he gave up a few goals in that first game, but I think he's the Vezina Trophy winner. I think that Winnipeg wins the series in 7, and it would be shorter if it weren't for Velarde and Ehlers. So it'll be a grind. A lot of games like that last one, they ain't gonna be fun game. They'll be fun. They ain't gonna be no sweat games. But I think Winnipeg is just good enough.
Yeah, they eked it out, and I think the Blues really needed to have that game in order to make this series a series. I will take Winnipeg in 7 as well. I mean, it's going to be crushing. I don't know. Is Ehlers out for the entire playoffs, or is it just
they have him as week to week? So I would be surprised if he does play in the first round.
Yeah,
and you got Jaron Anderson-Dolan scoring. Like what? And I follow. We're waiting for like a Rasmus Kupari goal away from like
skating
Kings again.
From a Kings bingo card. Yeah,
exactly. There you go.
Speaking of injuries, been riddled with injuries. There is the Dallas Stars with their 2 best players out going against Colorado. Colorado waxes them 5-1 in the first game. I think the big thing for the Stars is when are these guys going to be back? Are they going to get Miro back at 75%? Obviously, even if he's 80%, it's better than not having him on the ice. And so the injuries for Dallas, I think they need everybody healthy in order to have a shot against Colorado. Colorado, another favorite for a lot of people picking to win the Stanley Cup. With I think is probably the best player in hockey, in my opinion, in Nathan MacKinnon. What do you guys think of this series? Is it too hard to overcome without their 2 best players? How do you kind of view what we saw?
Well, it's funny because I was watching that game, and you look at the shot attempts, and the Avalanche just killed the Stars in shot attempts. But in terms of expected goal share, at least on 5-on-5, and maybe this is something that had to do with a little score adjustment here and there, but I mean they're really even. I thought Mackenzie Blackwood had a really strong game, but yeah, Brandon, you mentioned it, like the injuries that the Stars have been dealing with. I mean, I had the Avs in 7, but this was before the Jason Robertson injury, which I mean. that's just huge. I feel like the Avs are one of the better teams in the Western Conference, at least maybe the best team in the Western Conference. So I'll stick with my Avs in 7 prediction because I had it before Robinson injury. I would have probably gone Avs in 5 if that, or maybe even a sweep. But I think I was a little surprised to see Heiskanen skating. So hopefully they get him back and make it a longer series than that. But I got Avs in 7.
Yeah, before the Robinson injury, I had Avs in 5. They're going to win this series easily if Heiskanen can't play. You're not winning with Lyubushkin, CC, dumb. Like, that's just that ain't going to cut it. They need Heiskanen. Like, no disrespect to Robertson, but they need Heiskanen. The forward group is deep enough that they can survive a Robertson injury if Heiskanen's healthy. But without him, I mean, this is no more than 5 games for Colorado.
And Otter has looked horrible. I mean, I don't know. It's just he's looked really bad as well. And I mean, you can only withstand so many shots. If the injuries keep going the way it is, I think I'm Colorado in 5. The last
23% expected goal share.
There you go. So we have our last game, which right now is it still tied 1-1?
Oh, it's tied.
Yeah, 1-1.
1-1 here going on the Wild and the Golden Knights. Wild bring up Z Bouillon to the team. So interesting late add, top 10 draft pick and had a great year in college. So they get a little bit boost there. Boldy and Kaprizov gets his first assist of the playoffs there. And Hurdle, who had a horrible playoffs last year, gets on the board. So a lot of players for both teams showing up that weren't previously on the team or have been injured this season. Wild was hot earlier in the year, and then Kaprizov kind of dampened them, but they're getting some players back. Do the Wild have enough to pull off this series?
I don't think so. I'm curious to see how Bouillon plays. I feel like that's a defenseman that this Wild team desperately needs. I feel like they just play Brock Faber too much, in my opinion. They lean on him too much. Speaking
of points, Golden Knights just went up 2-1.
Okay. So, yeah, I just think Brock Faber's a solid defenseman. I think they just lean on him too much in terms of offense, and I feel like a lot of those minutes that he plays that he just doesn't provide a lot offensively. But now that you add a player like Bouillon, I don't know what type of impact a rookie player is going to make in a playoff series, but I feel like if you give him some maybe more minutes and hopefully you add a little bit more minutes to Brodin and who's the other guy? They got other defenseman, but whatever. I mean, I just think Vegas is just too strong and too experienced and they'll be able to exploit Minnesota pretty quickly here, even with Kaprizov back. So I picked Vegas in 5.
Yeah, to your point, Faber's played over 15 minutes already in this game, Russ.
Yeah. Dude, he's having a terrible year, and I don't know why they keep playing him so much. Like, it makes no sense.
I don't know. Well, they probably limit his ice time, but the D's not exactly high end, so that's probably playing a factor. It's probably stupid to pick sweeps in the NHL, Brandon, but I picked a sweep here. That's me speaking much more to how high I think of Vegas. I think Vegas is getting incredibly maybe I shouldn't say incredibly. I think there's a lot of people picking Vegas, but I feel like they're being a little underrated as they're a great team. And I don't know that they're talked about as such. I have Vegas sweeping Minnesota.
Yeah, and that Dorothy, I see he's the one who scored, but yeah, he's a stud player.
Mm-hmm. We friend of the pod, Sinbin, on earlier this year, and his biggest concern was scoring from the middle six, and they had to get a player to step up and take over the goals that they lost, and they had that in Pavel Dorofeyev. He was his X factor for the season. If he gets going, then the team's going to get going and not take a loss offensively. So Pavel Dorofeyev with a goal here, and I think they're going to continue scoring. I got Vegas in 5 as well.
Real quick on Vegas, because I know a lot of folks, and I know the Kings have played them well in the regular season, and I think there's this talk like they're mirror images of each other. And yes and no. Like, Vegas is very comfortable with just defensively keeping you to the outside, shots from the outside, They're known as this kind of stout defensive team, but I mentioned going back to that clear side analytics, they're also a top 5 team in creating scoring chances. Okay, so I think that's the part that gets overlooked is this is a very dangerous team offensively too. They're not just a defense only team. I think Vegas is awesome.
I think they're just bought in. Like they play the style where, hey, we're gonna clog the middle, we're gonna put our body on the line and block shots, and they're all bought into that style as well. Like we say, the Kings are bought into ours.
Yeah, give me a defensive core with Pietrangelo, Theodore, Hannafin. Yeah, I mean, probably one of the better defensive cores in the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
I mean, so yeah, and not to mention they added a player in Brandon Saad, who obviously he has that experience. We know all about that, but
Riley Smith too.
Yeah, and he was really nothing in St. Louis. Had 16 points in 43 games, and he comes to Vegas and has 14 points in 29 games. He has an assist tonight. So you can add a player like that for nothing. Like always.
Well, the moment you guys all been waiting for, picking this series, the Kings and Edmonton. Who wants to start this one?
I'll start it. I've been going back and forth on this because I really think this is good. It's the Kings' best chance. I think this is going deep. But as I dug into more numbers and like looking at now, maybe this is the wrong way to do it, but looking at the matchups from last year, looking at to see how, because everybody's talking about the Byfield, and as long as they win their matchup, the Kings will be fine. But Kopitar and Danault, it has not been good in the prior. So how do they do this? I think it goes 7. I can't pick against McDavid and Draisaitl. I'm going Edmonton in 7. I still think this is the best Kings chance. I think the Kings can win the series. I'm going Edmonton in 7.
Quiet the hush.
Boo!
I'm always
what's
the bad
funny is
guy.
I feel like I think that's where like the betting markets are kind of feeling, at least what they're pointing to, right? Like it's so even, so close.
It
but
is.
There's that slight edge maybe to Edmonton because of those top players. I guess I'll go. I picked Kings in 5. I'm just not gonna surprise anybody. This is the most, like I said at the beginning, this is the most confident I felt in this Kings team. This is the closest knit group I've felt that this team has had in any series against the Oilers. And I feel like that plays a big part in going up against this matchup. So yeah, and you have all that genuine care, I guess, between teammates that we've seen. If we see like these scrums, and obviously like special teams is going to play a huge factor, but there's that protective kind of nature I feel like with this group where they are like almost looking after each other that we haven't seen in the past. Like I just even in practice, I think it was yesterday, they're practicing the power play. Brant Clark takes a shot from the point, or it was just like 5-5. Brant Clark takes a shot from the point. It hits Joel Edmondson at the back of the leg. And Edmonton kind of gets pissed a little bit. He's like, oh, my God, you're shooting these hard shots. And he skates off or whatever. And I saw Clark almost give him a hug. Like he felt so bad about it. And Edmonton was like, yeah. It was almost like this father-son moment that I felt that it's like those kind of like connections in this group. And you can see it up and down the lineup with everybody. Fiala, Byfield, Kempe, Kopitar. Obviously, we know how close those two have always been. And Doughty and Anderson. And now Gavrikov, Spence, and all these other pairings that have really kind of gelled together, and you have Darcy Kemper now backing you up, and home ice advantage, which I think the crowd or the team really feeds off this home crowd, and I think the matchups with Jim Hiller at the helm, I feel like he can really find those matchups and exploit the matchups maybe that Todd McClellan or some other coaches haven't been able to in years past. So yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, guys. I love it. I feel like this is the best chance that the Kings have. So if they're feeling confident, that the confidence that I felt from the team, it's translated to me. It's got me in its mail too. So I'm going with Kings in 5.
Well, I mean, the PTSD is real, and so it's hard. I'm kind of with Joe a little bit, just like it. Like I'll believe it when I see it. Almost, it's almost going to be like a fever dream, and but I picked Slaying the Dragon as the title of this episode because I really believe it's a team eventually has to get the monkey off its back, and that's what your LA Kings are going to do this series. LA Kings at 6. Let's go.
I love
Get the monkey off our back. Let's slay this dragon. Let's send all these BS Oilers fans on Twitter back where they belong, watching their team out of the playoffs. LA Kings in 6. Come at you, boy.
Hey, you know what? That's good. If it makes people feel about it, if you remember last year, I was like, this isn't even going to be close. Oilers in 5. This is not even close. This is a struggle for me. Like I genuinely have gone back and forth on this, like every single day. And Russ, you said it earlier, where there's so much, despite this being a series where it's the same teams, there's a lot of uncertainty, I feel like. We didn't talk at all about the Oilers, like other players, like Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson in this series. Like there's just so much uncertainty with all of these, with this matchup because it is different as much as it's the same, it is very different in a lot of ways. So I just really don't know. And the fact that we didn't see anything in those final two games of the season against these guys, I know even less. So I think it'll be close. I think it'll be tight. I can't, if I'm in a game 7, if you're going into a game 7, would you rather have home ice or would you rather have McDavid and Draisaitl? I know what I'm picking in that scenario. So that's where I'm at. Like, but if the Kings win this series, first of all, it'd be decent for the betting account. I did sometime last week, I was like 115. I got to take the Kings at plus 115. So I know this sounds weird because I throw some money on the Kings earlier, but like I've literally gone back and forth on this all week. But it's just so hard. It's, and the more I looked into like the matchups and the more I looked at, and it kind of almost tipped it for me. It was like how good Nurse has been this year, like relative to Nurse. He's having a great season. Like, so it's kind of, interesting.
So what you're saying is your heart's on Edmonton, but the money is on LA. Is what
my heart is on LA.
Oh, you're sorry.
My heart is on LA. I put the money on LA. My brain is on the Oilers in a grind of a series. Right? So I don't know. I'm hoping that this dragon gets slayed here. I hope so, and to finally be done with it. But
because I think not that Vegas is an easy team to beat, but I think we've played Vegas pretty well, and not that the road to the Stanley Cup is easy by any means, but the confidence is there with this team, and if they beat the team that has dogged them, I think you could easily see this team make a run. And not that Vegas is not a good team, because they are a good team. They're a great team. But I think the confidence will be there. And it'll be huge to win that. If they, when they win this one series, it'll be huge for their confidence. It'll be huge for the team, and going forward and getting that experience for a lot of the young players who are going to be relied upon for key roles this year and even bigger roles next year for the full season. So I think this is just, I'm just excited. I mean, last year I picked the Kings to win out of pure homerism. I had no confidence in that pick. And, I had confidence the year after, the second year, because I was like, oh, we're getting all these players back, and we took it to them in 7 games, and we're going to be able to do that. So like those are the 2 years, or that year 2 and this year, I had confidence, but I've never been more confident in this team. Watching them play offense, like I know the last couple of years, offensively, had zero confidence in them scoring goals. I knew we were going to have to win games 1-0, 2-1, those types of things. I think this team can come from behind, and they are unbeatable when they score 3+ goals in a game. And so I just really like it. And I think Kemper has been excellent. He's been healthy, and he's by far the biggest X factor and the biggest advantage we have on this team. And I don't know how much injured McDavid and Draisaitl are and what percentage they are at. They're never going to let anybody know because hockey players aren't like that. But if it's at all below 80%, that's a huge advantage for the Kings for us to get out early. So, yeah, Kings in 6. I really like it. Who do you guys got in the Stanley Cup and winning it this year?
I have Colorado, Tampa Bay in my Stanley Cup, and I have Tampa Bay winning it. I just think they're just too good, too deep as a team. I mean, you can just list the names on that team: Kucherov, Point, Cirelli, Hagel. I mean, I can go on and on. Victor Hedman's been one of my favorite players. That's not on the Kings to watch. Probably I've always considered him one of the best defensemen in the league. And then you have Vasilevsky backing him up. I just think it'd be a rematch of 2022 with Colorado, who I think is the best team in the Western Conference. I mean, especially when you add Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle, that team just looks unbeatable. So, yeah, I got Tampa Bay against Colorado.
I actually have the same matchup. I just have Colorado winning. I think to what you just said, if they added Brock Nelson, which I think was a perfect fit, they added Charlie Coyle, which I think was a perfect fit. You know, another player that he scored in game 1, Arturi Lehkonen, who kind of flies under the radar a lot. He didn't play a full season this year, but he's just such a really good, just kind of all around player. I just Colorado team's really good for me. I got the same matchup, Russ. I just got Colorado winning it, but wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way.
No. And speaking of getting players back, Landeskog's been skating. He did a conditioning assignment, so that would be huge morally for morale for the team, as well as adding him. Even if he's only playing third or fourth line minutes, just having him on the ice is obviously going to be a huge boost. I don't want to sound like an echo chamber here, so but I do think the Avs and Tampa Bay are the two best teams. But very rarely the two best teams always make the playoffs. You see it a lot of times they lose. I do think that Vegas's secondary scoring has been very well this year. So I kind of think Vegas takes it out of the West. And I think out of the East, I still like Tampa Bay though. So I had Vegas and Tampa, with Tampa winning it in my approximation there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like it. It should be fun, right? It should be fun.
Yeah.
A lot of great matchups in the first round.
But why not? You know, why not be the Kings? Quest for 3 starts this year, huh? Like, it could be us. Why not us?
I'm with you on that confidence factor after the first round. If they can get past that first round, it's almost kind of like that 2012 feel where it was like they finally overcame a playoff series win and can take them.
Yeah, because that second series, remember that St. Louis team was not a fun matchup. Like, that was a tough team to play against.
So good.
You know, it's similar to, so maybe almost similar to like a Vegas. You know, that's a tough team. So yeah, I mean, we've talked vibes a lot. I've been the one to downplay the vibes, and I've kind of poured, shockingly, a little bit of cold water on the home ice hype. We'll see. We'll see if that all plays a big factor here in this series. It very well may.
Oh man, I just want to see our team hold the Stanley Cup over their head again. It's been too long. Well, thank you guys for joining us here. Playoff hockey is upon us. Hit that like button on the way out. For all of our articles, hit hockeyroyalty.com. All of our Twitter handles are floating across the bottom here at hockey_royalty, JW Paterino, NHL Russell, and Rando Commando 24. We still got shirts available, so hit Russell up for the shirts. Whatever discount Russell wants to give you for the playoffs and every playoff win, we're willing to get our gear out there and help us get Hockey Royalty to a new height. Tell your friends, tell your mother that this is where you want to get your LA Kings news. Boys, fun episode. The series starts tomorrow. Can't be more excited. And everybody in the chat, thank you guys for joining us all stream long. And as always on this podcast, go Kings go.